Okay, today what we're going to try and cover is more of the actual X Series Network Manager software. What we will try and cover today is some of the main menu items. So we'll basically get right into that. Essentially, I've got it set up in demo mode. Like I said in the other video, demo mode can be started just by running the software. Once you open up the software, if it's the first time you've ever opened the software, it'll ask you if you want to run demo mode. If you've opened it previously and kind of browsed around and then select demo mode, to toggle between demo mode and regular mode, you just click this question mark, and then it'll actually ask you if you want to switch to demo mode. So we're basically in demo mode now, and it just allows you to test the software out. So basically what we're going to cover today is some of the main menu items. The main menu button is right here in the upper right hand corner. Once you click that, you'll see a selection of items that you can actually choose from. And we'll go over most of these today. We'll try and cover them briefly, and if anybody has questions later, they can just post it or just send us a message. So the first one you'll see is notifications. It's under tools and settings. Notifications, you can see you got an outgoing email server. This allows you to have the software automatically email out images, videos, reports, other battery status, service reports, just basically the overall email notification system of the software. So you can see, you got email server, schedule status reports, email notifications, audio alerts, and live cam. The first thing, in order for it to work, you have to kind of set up your outgoing email server. So you would click at it. You would enter in your SMTP server name. Most of this information you can get if you just Google it, or if you just send us a message, we can usually walk you through particularly which email server you're using. The next thing you would select is to use a secure connection. You can select none, TLS, SSL. The port number should automatically correspond with whichever selection you have. You would enter in your email address. Usually that's for the server account. So if you're in Gmail, it'll be the Gmail account that you use to log in. Same thing with the username. That would be your Gmail username. Usually we recommend to use a password. You would enter in your password for your username that you use to log into your account. Again, if this is confusing, we can walk you through it, but for the most part, it's pretty self-explanatory. The other thing is you can add alternate servers. So if for some reason your main server is not responding, you can have multiple servers backing it up. Once you get all these settings put in correctly, you would hit update, and that basically sets it up. And then you would send your test email, and that basically tests that to make sure that you have the email set up correctly. If you do, it'll say, sent successfully. If it doesn't, it'll give you an error. Take note of the error and contact us, and we can usually walk you through if you're getting some error. Typically, you're going to find the errors you'll get is it's connected to the server but doesn't send. Usually when it says connected to the server but doesn't send, that means that you probably, when you set this up, you might have misspelled your email or misspelled your username or put the wrong password in. So those are always the things to double check first if you get an error. So once you get through your outgoing email server and you have it set up, then the next thing you can select is your email notifications. So you can set up to have schedule reports. And what this does, you can put in your email when you want it to run a report. So it's going to run a report automatically at 12 p.m. and it's going to send it to whoever you put in these lists. Once I add that report, essentially what that does is every day at 12 p.m. it's going to run a status report of your entire network, and it'll send you an email with the status report results. So it'll tell you the battery status of each camera, how many pictures have been received, if there's any pictures on the camera at the time the report ran, signal strengths. If there's any issues, you're going to see it in this report. But basically what that does is it gives you a daily report. You can run this report as many times as you want a day. So it just kind of gives you that feedback to your email. The next thing you can do is email notifications. I've went ahead and already set the emails up so you can actually see who's getting what. But essentially these email, if you wanted to edit the recipients, you add the emails in here. You can add as many as you want. If you want to add another one, you just simply click the button. Once you add all your emails in, then you hit update and it saves that email list. It's important to put this list in for who all you might want to send an email in to, and I'll explain that in a second. So you may have emails in here that you never actually send to, or you may have emails that you'll send all to. So if you want to be in the selection, make sure to put that email address in here. Notification types. This is where it's important to have the entire list. So you can actually send the lost connection. So if you're using a cell base or net base, it'll send you an email when the connection is lost. You can have battery status updates for all devices emailed, so it'll give you that status update. You could have pictures sent from camera one, they'll automatically be emailed. Once I check that box, you'll notice this little button over here, and that'll give you the email list that you created previously to select from. So if you don't want to send an email to your@email.com, you deselect it for the camera, or you can leave it all selected. The default is all your email lists, they all get selected for each device that you select. But if you have particular cameras that you don't want a bunch of emails sent from, you can deselect it or not select the camera at all. So basically it allows you to customize who you want to be receiving pictures from camera one. And it's the same for all the devices. You can go into camera 3 and, deselect. So you're only going to send it to this email address from camera 3. And once you'll see that, notice that, hey, I've changed my master list. But it just allows you to customize who gets what email from what device. And then going forward, your events for an echo, and the reason why that's an event, because echoes trigger, they don't take pictures, or if there's any other events significant to that device, it'll actually send an email. Because we also have a feeder controller on our network, you can also do feed failures, so it'll actually send you, if the feeder is coming back saying it's empty or it's clogged or jammed, you actually get a reply sent to your email that says, hey, you need to check that feeder. You can check all of these, independently or, as a group. You can select how many pictures to send per email. So as I move this scale up, so for this example, I'm going to put it all the way up at 10. So it's send 10 pictures per email, or if waiting longer than, say, 10 minutes. So in this settings, camera one will need to take 10 pictures or wait 10 minutes before it'll send the group of pictures. And that's basically just gives you that catch-all. So if camera one only takes 8 pictures, it's going to wait for that 10 minutes to elapse, and then it'll send one email with all 8 pictures attached. Same thing goes if it reached 10, it'll send 10 in one email all attached. This is helpful if you just want to get one email for multiple pictures. Once I have all my settings, I hit update, so all these get saved, and then you can look into your notifications. This kind of gives you an overview of how it's set up. So I'm going to receive email notifications. If connection is disconnected, I'll get my battery status, pictures for all cameras. I'm going to send 1 picture per email. I'm going to email triggers from the echo. I'm going to email notifications for the feeder. So basically that sets up your entire email notification list. The next thing you would want to cover would be the audio alerts. Essentially what the audio alerts do is it gives you an audio alert at the computer running the software. So when I enable that, and I'll give you a test of it. So camera one, every time it takes a picture, it will make a tone. And you can customize these tones. You can actually add your own sounds in. Yes, Ray, the emails can be sent to different email groups per camera. So you can actually select a custom sound per camera, and then have those cameras have their own individual sounds, so you can customize each camera. Same thing with activators and feeders and echoes. You can also customize the time at which the audio plays. So maybe you don't want it to run 24/7. Maybe you only want it to have audio during the night or during the day, during business hours. So you can basically customize all these sounds. And then, like I said, once these are changed, you're done. You can just hit back. Live cam is something we'll cover separately, but essentially what live cam is it actually will take all the images, videos from each device, cameras specifically. It will also do feeder and echoes, but essentially what live cam does is it stores the pictures on your own personal site. So you don't have to come back to your computer. You can view your pictures from anywhere going to a special site that's dedicated completely to your system. And like I said, we'll cover live cam in depth in a separate video because it's pretty in depth. But basically what it does is it just gives you the ability to view your pictures from the internet. And like I said, we'll cover that in depth later. But from there, you would install your passport, select which cameras you want to upload the pictures to live cam, then hit update, and it'll start uploading to live cam automatically. From this is basically all your alerts and notifications. And like I said, if you had any questions about any of these, you can email us or send us a message directly. I'm going to go back to the other main menu buttons. Some of your settings. This basically will cover the outline of how the layout of the software looks as you're looking at it. You can change your base name. Right now the base name is just the X80 PC base, and then the serial number would show. You can actually customize this. This may be beneficial if you're running multiple bases on the same computer, so you can kind of see the differences. You can also change the information to be display between or below each device, and essentially right now it's mode type and number, so you can see X80 PC base and then the serial number, or in this it's a camera and then the text field below it. You can also change which line you want to be listed first, and this basically is just strictly preference only, so it's for your viewing basically when you view the software, and that's pretty much all it does. Same thing with the second line. And the second line is actually, your first line is camera 1. Your second line would be this one, which is text 1, camera 1. You can change the device network tree style. It's set to compact right now, which it's the distance between the cameras as it's laid out into this hierarchy. That's beneficial if you've got a ton of cameras, you want it to run compact, but you could also run a relax, which actually lets it go out even further, and you could run minimum, which brings them in as tight as possible. There again, it's just for the viewing of the software. You can sort the devices in a different manner if you prefer, by text label. So if you sort by text label, it's going to be sorting in this one, text label 1. Text label 2 is on the actual settings of each one, this text label 2, or serial number. So you can sort it, and basically those are being sorted here in your main viewing field. So this entire settings field is basically to just change the layout of what you can actually see from the software. Firmware updates. This is a good one. If the software that's running the X series network manager is connected to the internet. By that, it doesn't need the internet to run. It just, if it is connected to the internet, you can select download and apply firmware updates automatically. And what this does is the software will check with our internal servers, usually once a day, sometimes twice a day, depending on the server setting. And if we release a new firmware, it'll automatically notify the software that says, hey, there's a new firmware out for the feeder, or there may be a new firmware out for the camera, or there may be a new firmware out for the echo or activator. If it is, it will automatically download the firmware to the software. The software will then apply it appropriately wirelessly to the appropriate device. So for example, if the cameras come out with a new version of firmware, it will automatically down the firmware to each particular device and update that particular device's firmware. And this is a big deal, because if there's anything that we come out, such as new features or improved settings or anything, maybe there's a bug in the system and we fix it, that all gets handled automatically as long as you have it set download and apply firmware updates automatically. And essentially that's a big deal, because before you used to have to download the firmware to an SD card and then take the SD card to each device individually and update it manually. Whereas now you can just let it run, and it's kind of like your smartphone, your iPhone, you get a notification that, hey, there's a software update. You can go ahead and automatically apply it, and then you don't have to, you don't actually have to go out in the field. You don't actually have to do anything. So your cameras can automatically stay updated. And like I said, this is really beneficial, because a lot of times we'll release a new feature in a camera or a feature on an activator or a feeder, and you can automatically get that new feature just by letting the system upload the new firmware. So, we recommend to always leave it in the automatically. You can obviously do automatically check for updates, but install manually, and this will just say up in the header, you'll see a green arrow pointing down that'll show up, and it'll say if you have this selected or updated manually, you'll see a green arrow pop up on the very header of the software, and then you click on that, and then you can actually manually go through the updates. There again, we kind of recommend to always leave it on that, just because it takes care of itself. So basically all this is doing the firmware update manager. Firmware is actually what runs on each device. That's kind of like the operating system of each device. Software is what we use to communicate between the devices. So you may see at some point a green arrow show up here in the header, and when you click on it, it'll say there's a new software available. That's required to manually download and update, and it's just like installing or updating any other typical software. But if you ever see a green arrow up in this part of the header, click on it, read what it'll say. It'll probably say, hey, there's a software that's been released. Do you want to download and install? Click yes, follow all the prompts, and basically that'll carry all the way through the install. It won't lose any of your system. It's a pretty streamlined process, and it's always best to make sure that you download everything. If you download everything automatically and then you do your software, keep it all up to date, because a lot of times you will need a particular software to run with a particular firmware. But if you're keeping everything up to date, there's no problems. And like I said, there's a lot of times that we will have features built in that we're downloading to you guys for free, and it may make your cameras transmit faster, or may have better communication protocol. There may be some other added benefit for battery life that you'll get to take advantage of automatically just by letting it run. So it's always recommended to do that. Okay, so we did the firmware updates, the RF encryption key. Most consumers don't use this. All our stuff, all our communication is already AES 128 encrypted. There are a few particular customers that like to use their own encryption keys. This is where you would change it. I would recommend not using this unless you're absolutely certain what you're doing. We can fix it if you mess it up, but it's always best just to let the AES do its own thing. So that's a security, so that people, if your neighbor has a BuckEye cam, they can't see your pictures, and vice versa. They can't tap into your system, so to speak, because it's all AES encrypted. Synchronizing clocks. We just went through spring forward time change here in Ohio. So usually, once your computer time changes, the software will see it and apply the change automatically. But if you go through like what we just did, a time change, and you happen to see, oh, my cameras, they didn't update for whatever reason, the computer kind of didn't notify all the software running that, hey, the time changed, you just simply click this and it updates the time on all your devices. So it's kind of a clean, easy, one-click process. And it's also important to know that the software gets its time and date from the computers. So if the computer is running, whatever computer you have running software, make sure the time and date's correct. So that's where the entire system gets its information to apply to all the devices in the field. Disable all sensors. This is basically a one-click all, so I can disable all the devices on the network for a preset period of time. So if I click 30 minutes, it's going to send out notifications to every device to disable for 30 minutes. And then it's going to be a timer. So camera 1, you can see it's disabled. It shows you this disabled feature on it. Camera 2, camera 3, or Echo 4, and so forth. And then because it's set for 30 minutes, after that time's out, it'll automatically enable itself and go back to the original settings that it had prior to you disabling it. And that's helpful if you're going to go out and service the cameras. You're going to be in the field. You just want to turn everything off for a period of time, so you can go out there and not have a bunch of activity on your network that you know it's just you. And the other side of that is when you get back, if you're like, hey, I'm done messing with them, I want to turn them all back on. One click does all your devices on your network, and it's going to go back, and you can see that it's being enabled at that point. So it's kind of a simple way to disable or enable your entire network really quickly, and you can actually put it on a time, so that's kind of helpful. We briefly covered this in the other one, but I'll cover it again. This is a neat little feature. It's called change routing. Essentially what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the structure of my cameras, well, all my devices in the field, without actually having to go into the field. So if, say, Echo 2 has got a real weak signal going direct to the base, but I know it's close to camera 3, so I'm going to actually route Echo 4. I'm going to route Echo 4 through camera 3. So the first thing I do is I'm going to select camera 3 and say search for devices that camera 3 can actually talk to. So what's happening now is camera 3 is going out and pinging all the devices, and it can talk to all of these devices out in the field. And I know Echo 4's got a weak signal coming to the base, so I'm going to go ahead and route Echo 4 through camera 3. And once I've made my selection, I hit reroute, which confirms that selection to the software. The software will finalize that, make sure it can talk, make sure everything's fine. Then it gives me the option I can reroute more, or I can click done. So I'll click done on this example. So now you can see through the network that Echo 4 is actually repeating through camera 3 to the base. You know, it's always best if you've got, as far as your signals, if you've got like 1 to 2 bars going directly to the base, you may want to repeat it. If you've got 2 to 3 pretty solid bars, you can go direct to the base. And you'll see this over your network. If you've got 3 to 4, it almost always goes best direct. And if for some reason, like camera 2 is taking a long time to transmit into the base, and the times just aren't as fast as the other ones that are going direct, that may be an indicator that, hey, it doesn't have that strong of a signal. So by routing it, it may actually transmit faster. Even though you're having to go through another device, it still may be faster. You can see like camera 1 how fast it's transmitting. So if all of a sudden camera 2 took 2 or 3 times to transmit as it does camera 1, then I may want to reroute it. And rerouting gives you this ability to extend your range. So Echo 4 is now, we'll say, that the farthest one out, and that I can even add more cameras behind that and increase my network going forward. So I'm really only ever limited by the last device in the network. And since we can run several hundred devices off of one software, you're pretty much unlimited as distance. And this is a big feature. It used to be it had to go out in the field and manually toggle switches on the camera and have it search for devices it could find. But now, since we've got a much more intelligent system, it can actually search from here. And that's kind of important too, because in the past, if camera 3 went to low battery, then you would lose Echo 4, and you could never get Echo 4 until you got the battery changed on camera 3. Now I could go through my software and actually reroute it to another device that may be in the area. So if camera 3's got low battery, I can always make Echo 4 go through the activator or any other device in the area without actually going out into the field. So there I just basically switched it. And you can triple or quadruple these. There's really no limit per se as to how many times you can repeat. Just keep in mind, you always want to try and take the shortest route to the base. Sometimes you have to go 2 times, 3 times, which is fine if that's all you have. But you know, it's if camera 3 can go to the activator 5, it's always best to go that route. But if it can't, and the only way it can go is this route, then that'll work too. It's just always keep in mind that you want to set it up to go as short a distance. I see Matthew Gee, sell a lot more cameras when they're priced better. No reason to charge $900 for. That's an interesting thing. There's a big difference in our price, and we get that question quite a bit. And I'm glad you came on there, Matt. I'll cover that real quick. There's several reasons why our cameras, and Gabe's piping in. There's several reasons why you'll see that our prices are they're not cheap. I mean, they're not, but there's so many different features, and that's why we're doing these videos, is to cover this. We're not a cheap camera. We do everything in-house. We write our own software. We develop our own systems. We build our own stuff. We service our own stuff. And there's so many features, and there's so many times that these systems are out there for 8-10 years. It's a commercial grade product. So you know, obviously their price is up there. It's not for everybody. But in the industry, it's pretty well known that the stuff that we do is actually of commercial quality. It's not a throwaway system, and we do service what we sell. I'm not going to get off on that too far, but there is a reason why we're more expensive, and you know, it kind of is what it is. We do the best we can. Actually, when we first came out with these cameras in 2004, a camera was $2,500. So you know, as our industry and technology comes to us at a lower cost, we can pass that savings on. So when the very first camera came out in 2004, it was $2,500. Now the X series camera is $899. So you know, we do our best we can on the price, but most, if not all, of our customers, after they get over that, then they get onto our price. They realize that, hey, you know what, these guys are the real deal, and it is actually, you know, as Gabe said, 4 years of these cameras only replaced 2 out of the 6 batteries. It is what it is. We've been around since 2004. We've watched other camera companies come and go. We've been, you know, with the market. How about lifetime warranty? That'll grab a lot more business. Actually, most of our customers get a lifetime warranty. We only do, you know, 1 to 2 years, depending on which product. Where we tend to, the warranty only really comes into play when something we feel failed. A lot of times what happens with our systems is either they're I don't want to say abused, but if, you know, accidents happen, we've seen them dropped out of trees. Usually we work with our customers. We're a close-knit company, so you know, it's kind of tough to say anything's got a lifetime warranty, because our technology, you know, for example, the cameras we came out with in 2004, those can't even be manufactured anymore. I mean, the technology is gone. So you kind of, it's a hedged bet against lifetime warranty of anything anymore, because the technology changes, and within 1 to 2 years, parts are very difficult to get in some cases. So, and that you know, if somebody in 2004 had a system, we don't manufacture it anymore. They have to upgrade their system. But if, you know, there's a way that we can actually bridge we always try to, but lifetime warranty in anything with technology is tough because it's very difficult to actually maintain the technology as it gets outdated. And a lot of people actually want to move away from outdated technology anyways. That's just kind of the way it happens. I don't want to get too far off this because I still have some other modes to cover, but I appreciate your question, Matthew, and it's a valid point. I mean, they aren't cheap. We make no bones about the system. They are not cheap. But on the other side of that, there's a reason why we've been doing this for so long, and like I said, we have, as technology would allow us to actually reduce our price, we do reduce our price, but it is what it is at the end of the day. We make a commercial grade system that has a longevity that's out there and proven for 10, 12 years easily. Now I'm kind of, okay, so get back on the actual being able to route. And the other side of this too is while we're covering this, all these little built-in features are typically what separates us from everybody else out there. As far as even just straight up cameras. I mean, the way our cameras perform as far as the trigger speed, the battery life, the flash range, the quality of the images, how we handle the overhead. I mean, it's all kind of just because when we started our system in 2004, we actually built our own camera. So we didn't take someone else's camera or someone else's IR array or someone else's triggering mechanism. We actually developed and manufactured our own system, and that's kind of how our system has grown over the years. It's all been integrated from day one. And we always take what we learn from each camera and then apply it to the next generation. So all these little features that we have built in, that's kind of why it does cost more. And there's a reason what separates us from everybody else is being able to do these other features. It takes a lot more processing, a lot more coding, if you will. By that I mean computer coding, software, firmware. It just takes a lot more effort to get the overheads on these to work. Okay, so we've covered change routing. You can actually change the routings from your software, which, like I said before, that's a huge ordeal. It's a big deal. It's a big bonus for customers. So I can literally remote into this system from anywhere in the world and change my routing. That also allows me to actually check and see what the system is doing. If I need to, reroute my structure, I can do it on the fly. The next one is actually export system, and that's a feature. It's kind of like backing up your entire network. And we always tell customers, you may have 40 cameras, several feeder systems and activators and echoes all on this one system, and it's all set up. I can export this system. We always tell them to put it on an SD card. So if something were to happen to the system, the computer running the software just completely goes away. If you have that system exported, you can then go to this system and import it. So if I'm starting from a clean slate, I download the software, I click import system, I go to that file wherever I stored it and import it, and it will actually rebuild the system completely down to your notifications. Remember where we set up all these notifications for email, so you could actually, all your email settings, your camera settings, the thousands of different settings that you have set up. When you import your system, it takes that and just basically restores it completely. For whatever reason, which a lot of people, they may not know or just don't take the time to export their system out. If the actual computer that runs the system were to just completely get destroyed and not be able to be recoverable, and if you didn't export your system, you could always restore the network. And it's a certain protocol we have built that's kind of like a help you out sort of thing. So if I came back and my computer's dead and I had to replace the computer, as long as I have the same base that I started the system up with, we have a fail-safe protocol built in that will automatically restore the network back to what it was at the last time it saw that network. It's not a catch-all in some cases, like it needs the particular devices to respond. So if, say, Echo 4 had a low battery, it wouldn't build that back in immediately, but as soon as you replace the battery or charge the battery back up, it would get automatically built back into the network. And what this does is it saves a person a bunch of time and labor of having to go back out in the field and manually unregister devices, and there's a whole protocol to that. So it basically it streamlines the restore system. So it's like a fail-safe system. The open event log, I've tried this earlier on the FaceTime and it didn't work. It doesn't show the separate window, but you'll have to believe me if you want to do this, you can download the demo and see it. But essentially what the event log does is it kind of gives you some performance events. Essentially what's going on during the system is logged in event log, and this helps us if there's ever an issue, we can troubleshoot it from this, and the owners can also troubleshoot this as well. And there's also a button for once you open up the event log that you can actually send the event log to us. So we've kind of streamlined that. So if you're like, hey, I got a particular camera, it's got a slow transmission or some issue, you can open up the event log, you can actually send us the event log, or you can just get on our chat or here and just say, hey, I'm getting this error when I'm trying to update settings or something, and then we can actually see what's going on. Same thing with the About tab. That actually opens up, and it just gives you some information based on what you're actually running on the system. It gives you the software version, the build date, obviously our information on how to contact us. So that's pretty standard. And then the exit basically just closes out the software. So we don't want to do that right now. Once you're all, these are all your tools and settings. So if you're ever, wanting to change any of the inner workings, typically this is considered the software side, whereas you could do the camera side, which is when you click on the camera, it opens all these, and we covered that in depth on the other video. So this is probably where I'm going to stop this video because we're already running a little over time, but I do appreciate the comments, and it's a little more difficult to do this on the fly than I thought, but hopefully I didn't get too far off a topic. And like I said, we're gonna keep these and we're gonna archive them, and we'll keep doing more. I really wanted to keep this down below 30 minutes, and I'm almost to 40 now. So, well, these will be archived, and we're also going to have them on our Facebook page and our YouTube account. So, and if you have a question during a particular video, comment on that video. We'll see it, and then we can comment back. So there's always that. So if you have any questions or anything, just let us know. And thanks again.